It's Seiji with Majali, and my guest today is founder and CEO of Unorthodox PR and Media Group, Sibabalwe. Welcome to Seiji, and thank you for choosing to share as you grow.
Thanks for having me, Bird. I'm really, really grateful for the platform.
Yes, it's such an honor. We've been watching you, following you on, your social media platforms and seeing the work that you've been doing. It's so amazing, it's so inspiring, at such a young age, young Black female, Eastern Cape,
Yeah.
It's quite inspiring, really, to watch a young entrepreneur doing such great things at such a young age. And we just want to know, tell us more about how it all started, the journey to where you are now, and when did you actually realize that entrepreneurship was a passion that you had?
My very first entrepreneurial activity, if you want to call it that, was actually when I think I was 10 or 11 years old. I sold popcorn.
Wow.
So I wanted a cell phone, and it was a Motorola T190, and my parents are like, they're not going to get it for me. So I was like, okay, listen, guys, because I always negotiated with my parents. I sat them down, this short little thing at 11 years old. I was like, if I raise half of this money, will you give me the other half? They're like, yeah. But they were saying yes, but they didn't think that I would actually be consistent and follow through, right? Sold popcorn, because I think it was 800 rand. So all I had to do was raise 400 rand. And my popcorn was 2 rand 15. So I sold popcorn.
Must have taken you months.
It took me a long time, but I was like, I really want a cell phone. And my dad was also eating into my profits. The newspaper back then was 2 rand 50 as well. But eventually I raised it, called my parents into a meeting. They were used to it. It was 2 rands, 1 rand 50 cents. It was all 400 rand. I put it on the tape. I was like, you can count it. That is 400 rand right there. You promised. I want my cell phone. So they just bought it for me. They didn't take my 400 rand that I had made. So that's my very first entrepreneurial activity. But actually, realizing that I really wanted to be an entrepreneur was when the company started in 2014 October. It was purely by accident. I didn't know that, close to 5 years later, I'd be sitting here being interviewed, by another amazing entrepreneur.
Thank you.
That was the journey. I only realized that 2014, but started really when I was 10, 11 years old.
Wow. So 2014 to now, it's been a while, ne?
Yeah.
And the journey obviously had its ups, has had its downs as well. What are the challenges that you experienced starting Unorthodox? And how did you maneuver those? I mean, I wouldn't imagine at 2014 you're still young and you're having these challenges that are not common to, a normal employee. So how do you maneuver those challenges, and what were they?
So when I first got into it, I got into it purely because my client, then at the time, my very first client, was paying me more than I was being paid, my salary as a 9-to-5 employee. And I actually thought about it. I was like, I only see my client once. I can work from home and they're paying me more than what my salary was then at the time. And then I was like, on top of my salary, I have to go to work every single day, so those are also expenses traveling back and forth. So I was like, I can actually do this on my own. That's how I started. So just the challenges were now I had to be, I think as an adult, I was 22. Yeah, I was 22 then.
Sure.
So I'm also adjusting to the adult life. But then now on top of that, you have to be super smart about your finances as an entrepreneur. You literally need to, every time you spend 1 rand, you must realize, what return am I getting from this? And am I satisfied with the return? Return is not always financial, but you need to know, if you're going to spend on something, what do you want out of it? So I had to change my mindset. I had to change my thinking. I had to change my spending habits. Some of the and I mean, at 22, you still have a very active social life
as well.
You still want to be out. You want to be seen. But now I can't just go up and do cocktails with the girls on a Friday, because I have to think, actually, I need to buy data so I can be able to send these emails, because I don't have an office and I'm working from home. So those are some of the challenges. Financially as well, clients don't always pay on time. So you need to know, if they don't pay on time, I need to manage my cash flow. So also challenges were relationships. Now, when you're an entrepreneur, you can't just brush off people anymore, because every person might have something to offer.
Might be a potential client.
So my mindset had to change around that, how I interact with people, who I interact with. Social media, what do you put out on social media?
Becomes very important.
It becomes very important now because people check you out on social media, and I can't express how important it is to filter your social media. I see so many people making so many mistakes. So things such as that, you have to have a level of privacy. So those are some of the challenges as well, not to share too much.
True.
Just being emotionally strong. Also one of the challenges, because you're on your own. You're on your own till you see some kind of physical manifestation, because there's a point in time where your family's like, we don't know what you're doing and we're giving up on you because we don't know what you're doing. But then, the moment they start seeing the financial benefits, the moment they start seeing tangible things as well, then they come back like, oh, so this is what you're doing. But you have to be mentally strong. You have to be emotionally strong. And I think in business, IQ is not that important. Your EQ is more important than anything else, because you have to be able to gauge the situation, look at certain people and their reactions. You have to read them. So there are quite a lot of challenges that go into entrepreneurship, not just the physical that you see. It's the mental challenges as well. You have to hype yourself up every single day. Yes, because no one's going to do that for you. So every single day, I watched a video clip by DJ Khaled, and he was saying, my company is called We the Best, so we have to deliver the best all the time. So I don't know if you guys are Drake fans, but if you followed Drake's journey, Drake has always told himself that he's going to make it. So some of these icons that I'm mentioning, well, people I consider icons as well, are people that have had to be emotionally strong, and they had to be there for themselves and be their biggest cheerleader. So a lot of people face that as a challenge. They're not amping themselves up, but you really, really need to. And there's plenty more other challenges
that you would face, but you're highlighting such important challenges, like the financial challenges that you go through, and people not paying on time. And how do you deal with that? Do you find yourself going back to the parents and saying, guys, please bail me out this month? How have you managed to actually balance your cash flow so that if a client doesn't pay on a set date, you still are able to continue, and it doesn't affect your delivery at the end of the day?
Delivery is always important, so you need to do everything that you can possibly do under the sun to make sure that you still deliver on time. But the whole cash flow thing, God, I think I only started mastering that maybe 3 years ago, and it's so important. So what I started doing is that I started adjusting my contracts. So some of my clients, we invoice for, or their payment terms are during mid-month. And then some of the clients, it's at the end of the month. So at least every 2 weeks, there's some sort of cash flow coming in. And I went to a seminar, where they were telling us to use some of your profits to make you more money. So always constantly be investing. Obviously, your investment is not always going to be like on a huge scale, but diversifying your risk as well. So we often think that we have to get to a point where we are grossing 100 million a year for us to start investing. But it's really just the smallest things, such as a savings account. It's accumulating interest, something that you can find. Even lending, if you can be at that point where you are lending other entrepreneurs as well. So you're helping them, and then also when they pay you back, it's interest. So you have to be very creative with your cash flow. I've never had to go back to the parents. I'm always a girl with a plan. Like, I will make some plan. Something will always happen, because I've always wanted to show my parents that, I can do this. And I can do this without your help. And I want you to see that without your help, this is how far I've come. Because I've always been financially independent ever since I was younger. So the most important thing for me was just to not ask the parents. And also another thing is that I want to build a trust between my parents, so that if I do come and I'm like, yo, I need 250K, they can understand. Say, okay, she's never asked us for much, she's done this, so we can trust her as well. And I hope they've got 250. And also as entrepreneurs, you have to decide if you're an entrepreneur or a business person. If you're a business person, it means that you really just focus on that one business that you are in. But if you're an entrepreneur, then it doesn't stop. You start something, you grow it, it starts realizing some sort of returns, you move on to something else. So also distinguishing from the beginning, am I an entrepreneur or am I a business person? Then that's when you can see how many revenues of income you can bring to yourself or to the business.
Yeah, and I think I like the point you're raising, that sometimes small businesses think when they invoice, they always have to make it month end. Now you have all 20 of your invoices due month end. You have the entire month. Nothing is coming in. And I think that purely comes from a point of we used to being employees, getting paid at the month end. Yes, and that's a mentality that we slowly shift and slowly try to change. There's nothing wrong with having your invoices to be 7 days.
Yeah,
7 days, your invoice is due. It doesn't have to be 30 days because not everyone's government. You set your own terms as well. And I like what you said, that you adjusted your contracts to set your own terms. And, maybe small businesses also don't have contracts in place where they deliver services. It's just a matter of, do you want this? We can do it for you. We'll send you a quotation. And they hit the ground running. No service level in place, no contracts in place. And when did you start implementing those, for your own business? Did you start off like that? Or from the word go, you started off with having service levels and contracts?
So my very first client, after he was impressed with the pitch and the proposal, well, it was a pitch more than anything because it was hardly a proposal. I didn't know how to draft a proposal. He asked me, he's like, okay, so cool, where's your contract? Where's your SLA? I was like, okay, I'll get back to you, because I had to go on Google. I didn't know what an SLA was as well. I had to go on Google. 22. I knew what an employment contract was. So I had to research, and I took just a rough draft from the internet.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, it'll do. But over the years, I've also modified it, because just as what we were talking about, when your clients don't pay on time, that's something you need to put in your contract. Should you not pay on time, I'm charging you 11% for every day that you're late. Also started changing to, you need to pay me first. We got into a point where we were working, and then only after 30 days we invoice, and then you pay us. So then we also got to a point where pay me a 50% deposit
upfront.
We work, and then the other 50% upon the deliveries. Did that. And then I was like, actually, no, that's not going to happen. I know I can deliver. I trust where I am now. So how's about...
And you trust the brand.
Upfront. Trust the brand, definitely. So how's about upfront? So before we even start any work, I won't even open an email if, let's say, we invoiced for 2 Rand and the 2 Rand is not in. So either proof of payment or it clearing in my bank account. But that 2 Rand needs to be in if we invoiced you for that, and then we start the work. So now just modifying the contracts according to that. And also now what happens... maybe I promised you 5 apples for that 2 Rand, and I now didn't give you 5 apples. I gave you 3 apples. So now I have to modify that according to how much I invoiced, to then say, okay, then when you pay me upfront for the next month, you're not going to pay me 2 Rand. You're going to pay me, 2 Rand plus, or actually less than 2 Rand, because there also have to be consequences for when I don't deliver. So if I said I'm going to give you 5 apples and I only give you 3 at the end of 30 days, then the next month's invoice has to be modified to make sure that shortfall, I'm feeling it. So it's a consequence. And that's also a good way of building trust with your client.
Yes.
To not say you're greedy, but then at the same time, you can't not pay me completely, even if I have delivered a portion of what I said I would pay. So over time, you modify it. And I think that's also a problem with startups, is that they think that contracts are just set in place, but you need to protect yourself from the get-go, because
you have one contract and you run with it
forever.
And
that's it. You need to modify. You need to chat to other business owners. You need to chat to well-seasoned business owners. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the loan contracts from the bank, they weren't in place from day one. Over time, they saw the patterns and what was happening, and then they modified them. So you need to always be learning. And a contract for a startup, a small business, is so important. Very, very important. You need to protect yourself from the go, because the client has already protected themselves. They'll see a loophole in your contract, and they're not going to say anything. They will take advantage. They will exploit, and those are some of the situations that I've been in. Hence, now I can say, we've completely modified our contract.
And your contracts are airtight.
They are. I think they're 13 pages now, and you better read it. You better read it, because I'm going to reference each page. Yes. With a black pen too, because if it's blue, it's not going to stand in the court of law. So minor, smaller things, such as that, but they are so important because it's in the little details.
And small businesses, we highly depend on the cash flow in the initial stages. You can't even pay for your expenses if clients have not paid. and if you don't have enough clients, you're going to run at a shortfall, you know. So how do you or what strategy had you put in place to make sure that you keep getting clients? So how do you keep getting new clients so that your business is growing and also the revenue that you're receiving is changing each month?
Sure. I think it was an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time, in that my first client actually kept on referring us to people. So even before we thought about getting a new client, we already had a referral. And a referral is so strong. It holds so much weight, because by the time you meet up with that person, they've already been told good things.
They've made up their minds about you.
It's 60% or 70% of the work done. They just need to meet you, get a good energy and vibe from you. You guys agree, and then contract. Boom. So very, very fortunate. I think we only started pitching for business maybe second quarter of last year. But we're pitching for new business, because now you also get to a point where you are growing. And the clients that you had in the past are great, but you need to also you're getting more experience as well.
You're defining your niche as well.
Finding your niche as well. So you need to find the clients that will help you propel your company to where exactly it is that you wanted to go. So it was always referral, but now we've been pitching like crazy, you know, and so I've actually become more organized. So also the pitching process helps, because even if a client says no, we're not taking your services right now, I think the most important part is then asking why. So you can go back, implement that, then go and pitch again. And still maintaining and building that relationship. Even if they said no, still maintain, carry on. There are people that have said no to us. I think it was a referral, but they said no, actually we don't want it. We kept on maintaining that communication. 2 years, 3 years later, they were like, actually, I think I need you.
Wow,
we weren't even pitching, or at that point in time, it was, can you send me a contract? How much do you charge now? So, but you need to have active goals that you set in place to say, okay, I want to pitch to however many clients in a month. And then from that, look at your success rate. Look at where you're failing and falling short. And then just keep on going. But what I've realized that for startups, it's also very hard to be pitching all the time, because normally you wear 10 to 20 different hats when you're starting out.
You're doing everything on your own.
You are. You're the lawyer, you're the PA, you're doing literally everything. But also another thing that I've picked up quite late as well, which is last year, is the importance of partnerships, especially when cash flow is a factor. So in the industry that I'm in, I need a lot of graphic designers, for instance. I need a lot of photographers. So if a client hasn't paid me, but I need to get my company up and running, our graphics need to be consistent. Form partnerships. Find a graphic design company and say, we don't have the budget for a graphic designer, but this is our service offering. Quantify your graphic design. If you normally charge maybe 5,000 Rand per month, quantify the value that you are giving me in monetary terms, so that I can also check my services and say, okay, I can give you 5,000 Rand worth of services. Therefore, we're helping each other. Because you need to, again, be creative with how you do things. So with cash flow, I'd say partnerships are very important. Extremely important. And it builds up to long-term relationships. You end up even absorbing some of the functions. Some of the functions. We've started now, we were just focusing purely on public relations and communications. But now we've absorbed a graphic design component of it into the company. It's part of our service offering now. So you also grow as an entrepreneur through partnerships.
Yes. And I think people need to start looking at, okay, I need an accountant. How do I partner with someone who's an accountant whom I can offer my service to, and they do the same for me? I need an HR consultant. How do I offer that HR consultant my services so that I can get talent from them, So it's very important for us to try and form small networks. And it goes back to going to these networking events, making sure you're out there, putting your brand out there, so that you can start seeing people with these synergies and working with those people where you have synergies with. And, a lot of us as small businesses have used the networking platforms quite incorrect. We go to these networking platforms almost to tick, hey, I was at a seminar. We don't get there and talk to people. We don't get there and actually present ourselves as a brand. we're either even unprepared. We don't even have business cards with us when we get to those events. So you are in public relations. How do you advise people to make the most of networking events? How do you make the most of it? How do you interact and engage, build meaningful relationships from a networking session without coming across as too aggressive and also without coming across as too desperate for business? I need you to give me a job, you know. So how do you advise small businesses to actually take advantage and maximize on networking events?
I think before you even get to the actual event, you need to sit down with yourself and ask, how effective is it going to be? And how relevant is it to me? And what do I want to get out of it? Am I going there for business? Am I going there purely for networking? Is there a specific person you've always wanted to meet and they will be there and they'll be accessible to you now? Maybe they haven't answered your emails or your phone calls. So before you actually even get there, you need to know exactly what it is that you want. Secondly, I'd advise go alone. Because we go with our friends or we go with people that we're familiar with. And then I'm going to, the entire time, I'm going to stick to Babala and that's it. And we're going to be talking our own things. I know what you do.
Yeah, true.
You know what I do. We're going to be talking absolute nonsense. Nothing that will build us business-wise. We're going to be there chatting on a social level. Meanwhile, there's so many amazing people that we could be meeting. So you need to define exactly what it is that you're going for. If you're going there to get business, then by all means your elevator pitch needs to be on point. 30 seconds, this is what I do, this is the problem that I am solving. Here's my business card, give me yours as well. So if you are there for business, if you're there for networking purposes, just also find out before you even take someone's business card, are they going to be worth it? You know, further down the line, am I going to meet that person? Because we have all of these business cards and you just find them one day like, lying in the car somewhere. Do you actually really need them? Do you want that much clutter around you? So you need to be very intentional when it comes to your networking as well. Even going up to people and asking, hey, what do you do? So depending on maybe it was a panel discussion or it was someone in the audience, but go find random groups of people to network with. If someone's by themselves, hi, my name is Sibabalwe, what's your name? Oh, what do you do? Oh, really? You know, we also find that the world is very small. You might know someone who might help that person, it might not be you, or that person might know someone who's looking for your particular services.
True.
So, but also talking, engaging, and if it's someone who you think you can do business with. If I want to offer my services to Babalo, and let me pitch myself, but then in as much as I can, let me try to follow up. I can tell Babalo, this is what I do, and then this is what I can possibly do for your business, but we still need to have a conversation. So that follow-up after is very important. You're not going to give me a contract on the spot unless you've heard about me or the work that I can do.
You already made up your mind.
And you made up your mind prior to that. But it's important to follow up. And I think also where we get it wrong on the network is that we network on that day or on that night and we leave it there. No. The next day, send an email.
Or you find you send an email a week later.
But that person needs to they need to remember you. So follow-up is so important in the time frame. Hi, my name is Siba. Okay, you've forgotten my name. I was the lady who was wearing so-and-so from this PR company. If it's a day or two after that, then they are going to remember. Well, okay, Babala was wearing a mustard shirt. Oh, okay, now I know who it is, you know. And also just keeping in communication. And I know I might sound like I'm selling my services here, which is something that we actually offer, but we offer a newsletter service so companies can send out a newsletter monthly, telling their current clients, potential clients, stakeholders what they've been up to as well. So also, if you have that newsletter service or you'd like to have that newsletter service, then going to your networking events and getting contact is important because now you're building your database. And also segmenting that database. Okay, these are potential clients. I just want to communicate with them on this newsletter. These are already existing clients. This is what I'm, different partnerships, stakeholders, and all of that. But if you are going to be going to these, you need to make the most out of it as well. As a startup, you find startups going to other startup events, but they're looking for business. We're all startups. How do you think that person is going to give you money? You know, go there with a mindset that I'm just here to network, and that's it. I've seen it happening so many times.
Understand the nature of the event.
You need to know who's going to be there, which income bracket are they in if you're going there looking for business. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Oh, it gets me all the time.
Yeah, no, that's quite true though. Now that you mention it, no one is there from corporate, for instance, you know, because they're not even hosting the event. At least if, you know, a corporate company is the one hosting the event, you know that, okay, I can try to get a contact in there. Today we were listening to Siba sharing her journey with us. It's been such an honor, Siba. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best, you know, going global, growing the brand, and also maybe one day, you know, franchising your brand so that other people can, you know, be part of this brand.